Okay, so now let's dive into our co-main event of UFC 303 taking place this weekend on Saturday in Las Vegas. Diego Lopes, the 14th ranked featherweight, is fighting Brian Ortega, who has the number 3 next to his name. Brian Ortega is a stud, great fighter, been fighting the highest level guys for quite some time now. I mean, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, Brian Ortega. These 3 guys have been the elite of the elite at featherweight for quite some time now. But has Brian Ortega beat any of these guys? No. Brian Ortega has 2 wins since 2020. The reason Brian Ortega continuously sits atop the featherweight rankings is because he fights the highest level of competition, but he loses. So he never actually dips down and loses to a guy like Diego Lopes, who's ranked 14th. So he's able to maintain his high ranking. That being said, I don't think he's nearly on the level of Volk or Max Holloway. I mean, Max Holloway right now. Volk before he got knocked out by Islam and Ilya. Those 2 guys are elite. Brian Ortega's a great fighter, don't get me wrong, but he is relentless. He outwills you. That's what he did to Yair Rodriguez in their last fight, and eventually, Yair just broke, and Brian Ortega was able to get the submission. Now, Diego Lopes, in my personal opinion, Diego Lopes is unbreakable. I do believe Diego is a significantly better striker than Brian Ortega. I mean, Brian Ortega knocked out Frankie Edgar, but that was post-prime Frankie Edgar, and Brian Ortega hasn't really done anything to prove that he's an elite striker on the feet. Max Holloway battered him. Now, Max Holloway is maybe the best striker, at least boxing-wise, in the UFC. You can make that argument, but I just don't believe that Brian Ortega is that good on the feet, and I do believe that Diego Lopes is that good on the feet because, I mean, he's shown us no reason to believe otherwise. His last fight, Sadiq Youssef, I mean, my goodness. Diego Lopes looked like a world beater. He didn't get touched. He found the transitions he wanted to find on the ground. Short uppercuts ended Sadiq Youssef's night very quickly, and Diego Lopes won that fight by KO. Diego Lopes is a great striker. That being said, he's a grapple-first fighter. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, this dude is a BJJ artist with elite-level striking. I truly believe he's just better than Brian Ortega everywhere. You look at this fight on the feet. Brian Ortega does not want to strike with Diego Lopes. I can tell you that with 100% certainty. Brian Ortega wants to outwill Diego Lopes, bring this fight to the ground, and choke him out. That's not going to happen. Did anyone see Diego Lopes' UFC debut against Movsar Evloev? I mean, that guy is an elite wrestler. He's a great wrestler. His wrestling is off the charts, high caliber. Another one of those Russian wrestlers. But Diego Lopes seemed to have no issue grappling with Movsar. I mean, he had him in a nasty knee bar, almost ended that fight on multiple occasions. Diego Lopes arguably out-grappled Movsar. So if Diego Lopes can hang with someone like that, who's to say he can't grapple with Brian Ortega? I'm not discrediting Brian Ortega's BJJ at all. But this weekend is the coming out party for Diego Lopes. He's going to show everyone why he's the next big thing at featherweight. I mean, you put Diego Lopes up against Ilya Topuria. I don't mind that fight at all. Ilya's great everywhere, but so is Diego. Diego's young, he's hungry, and his skill sets are off the charts. Now, Diego Lopes to win this fight by finish, whether it's submission or knockout, sits at plus 130 right now. You take that, you put 10 on it, you win 13, you come home with more than double of what you were putting out. I like that, and I like it a lot. I just think Diego Lopes is better in every facet of martial arts. I think he is better at everything. He is the higher level striker. He is at least just as good on the ground, but when you combine high level striking with high level grappling, it just, your opponent has more to look at. Your opponent has more to worry about. Diego Lopes can buzz Brian Ortega on the feet. Brian Ortega gets all worried about getting knocked out. Just like that, Diego Lopes sinks in a choke through the distraction that is his high-level striking. Diego Lopes, in my opinion, is better at everything than Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega needs to outdog Diego Lopes to win this fight, outwork him, and I do not think Diego Lopes can be outworked. I mean, 2 first-round finishes in his last 2 fights. He just sparked his opponents unconscious in less than 4.5 minutes of total octagon time. This guy is the next big thing. I have no doubt about that, and I would take Diego Lopes to win this fight by finish at plus 130 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and especially on Saturday. So yeah, give me Diego Lopes any day of the week.